Hello you beautiful creatures, how the devil are you? I hope you're well. If you're new here, my name is Lou, or Loucifer, as my friends like to call me. By my friends, I mean my ever-growing army of demons. Hello, this is going to be wild. So, a lot of you guys know who have been here for a while that sometimes we do, well, for the most part we do like gigs, we do comic conventions, we do all sorts of things. It's not very often that we get to do something that's a little bit more us, a little bit more personal, darker slice of life. However, I thought that I'd do this for two reasons. One, because it'd be fun to show you that this particular thing you can do, you don't have to follow the status quo with it, but also because I just really want to capture the memories, because tonight is the start of my hen do. I'm so nervous. I am so nervous. Like, not because I feel like it's all going to go wrong, but because I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea what's going to happen. My amazing maid of honour, Sophie, she's been my best friend for a real long time now. God, like nine years? Yeah, 9 years. And yeah, she's planned what I've heard is a pretty spooktacular hen do for me. I've said that I want something unorthodox, something that's very me, and you know, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a make your own taxidermy in there somewhere, but we'll see. Yeah, I don't know, I just really wanted to show you guys like what my hen do looks like, and yeah, I'm really excited to share it with you guys, and I'm really excited to capture it and be able to watch it again when, you know, things have calmed down a little bit. I mean, the wedding's in October, so it's, you know, originally it was a while ago, but now it's not so long ago. Hello, darling. Hello.
I'm not decent for camera.
Oh, all right then. Well, why are you coming closer then? Jesus Christ. Right, okay, I'll make this short but sweet. But yes, very excited. Very excited. You know what I'm doing for it, don't you?
Yeah.
Are you going to tell me?
No.
Thought not. So, I hope you have a horrible time in the best possible way. Let's do it. Oh my god. She is so good. I love her so much. R.I.P. single life. I love it. Well, that's sexy. And yes, there is Ghost in the background. Look how cute these ghost strawberries are.
Oh, it's so nice.
Playing board games now, and I'm having the best time. So, gonna finish the night off with this absolute legend, but also can we talk about the bottom gay subtext? I mean, it's definitely in there, but you know, tell me what you think. That's hilarious.
The next day.
Morning! We're so cold. Why are you over there?
I thought you were doing like
no, it's fine, it's okay. We're here, I'm queer. We're going for the hen do at the train station. No, I'm kidding. I don't know where we're going. We're going to London.
Train spotting.
Thanks, guys. Yes, we're going to go to London. That's all I know. Jesus Christ. See what happens?
In such a disturbing fashion that Victorian society was gripped by fear for weeks on end. Of course, the first was to show up with the newspapers, the press, and they started covering the cases with the names of the victims and the suspects as well. But the case was so big that it made it to the international press as well. So the eyes of the world were looking at London. And what was going on in London back in 1888? Well, this was the largest city in the world, but also the richest one. It was the beating heart of the Industrial Revolution and the heart of the British Empire as well.
So fun. We are going on a Jack the Ripper tour. Amazing. Oh, look at my squad. They look fantastic. Squad. We've had so many looks already.
Instance, that building across the road nowadays an Asian restaurant, but back in the day it used to be a different establishment. Actually, if you look up at the terracotta roof in the corner, you can still read its original name. It says Ye Frying Pan, and you can actually see two frying pans crossed on top of each other. Let me show you a close-up of that.
Yeah,
you can see it. Ye Frying Pan.
That's so cool.
Ye Frying Pan was one of the most popular pubs in Whitechapel back in 1888. Now take a guess from me and tell me which you think was the most popular drink back then.
Gin.
Very good, gin. Gin
I
was very
remember it
cheap
well.
and or the hangover comes from.
Yeah.
So it makes sense now. All right, it's right here outside of E frying pan where we meet the first victim of this case. Her name was Mary Ann Nichols, or simply known as Polly Nichols in our story. Let me show you her photograph. She was 43 years old when she was murdered, and only 4 days before she was celebrating her birthday, if we can even call it a celebration, because she was already struggling. She slept in one of those lodging houses. Actually, hers was located behind of E frying pan, but it was demolished back in the 1950s. It was called Wilmot's house. So it was really a very short walk for this woman between the pub, the lodging house, and back again to this pub, as she was an alcoholic. Ambury Street, it used to be a residential building, this one on the photograph. This building was demolished back in the 1960s to make way for the expansion of the Truman Brewery. You can still see the Truman Brewery sign right there. But it closed back in the 1980s, and nowadays it is a food market, as you can see. So it was in the alleyway behind of this building that Jack the Ripper murdered his second victim the night of the 8th of September. However, it's quite noisy in here, so I'll do the explanation somewhere else, but this was the actual spot. Let's continue this one. Welcome everyone to Prince Elizabeth Street. You can see the name right there in the corner, and the adjacent one is called Wilkes Street. These two streets are my favorite spot in Whitechapel, and the reason I love coming here is because of these beautiful houses. They were built in the 1700s in the French Huguenot style, so they give us a very good flavor of how Whitechapel might have looked back in 1888. And of course, they have been refurbished many times, except for the one right in front of you. As you can see, this house has never been touched. Now, the owner of this house back in the 1970s told his neighbors, you know what? I will never touch my house because one day I will rent it as a filming location for Hollywood productions. And everyone laughed at this man. And guess what? He's very rich nowadays. It's a very popular spot for filming nowadays in London. Unsurprisingly, a show called Reaper Street was shot in here. Also some scenes for the first season of Peaky Blinders, for the third season of Downton Abbey as well. The Woman in Black with Daniel Radcliffe, amongst many other movies.
Oh my God.
TV shows and so on. So it's quite a popular spot nowadays in London, and a good place to talk about our second victim. Her name was Annie Chapman. Let me show you Annie Chapman's picture. She was 48 years old. Annie Chapman having a conversation with a foreign-looking man. She said a very tall guy with dark hair. He was wearing a deerstalker hat, like the Sherlock Holmes hat, and a black coat as well. But also she said she listened to part of the conversation they were having in the alleyway. What she listened was basically only one question and one answer. What this man asked Annie Chapman was, "Will you?" And she replied, "Yes." And it's that question and that answer what made her a prostitute for over 135 years now. Just because Elizabeth Long told to the police what she heard, the police concluded this conversation had to do with prostitution without any conclusive evidence or further investigation. Half an hour later, at 6 in the morning, another resident of the same building was getting ready to go to work. He was a very old man who worked as a market porter in Whitechapel. And this man was using the privy or the toilets outside of the residences. He was minding his own business when suddenly something hit the backyard fence. So this man went to check out what was going on, and he discovered the body of Annie Chapman lying on the ground, once again with her throat severely cut from left to right. There was still blood oozing from the wound. She was slashed on her abdomen, her sexual organs, and her upper thigh. So the same modus operandi of the first victim. And they would throw it directly on the streets. So the line you see in the middle would have been a sewage channel back then. So imagine the pestilence in the streets of Whitechapel. So be careful where you stand in these streets. The 10 Bells is the oldest pub in Whitechapel and the most popular one even nowadays. That pub is shown in every Jack the Ripper film and documentary. The 5 women had drinks here many times.
Oh my God, this is stunning.
Place doesn't look very Victorian, but this used to be part of Dorset Street back in 1888, the worst street in Whitechapel. It was a very dangerous place, as I described before. Walking here probably meant that you would get mugged or something, and nowadays it's an office building, and as you can see, it's changed a lot. Now, I just told you the people living here were so desperate that they reached out to someone in the establishment. So they came to this man on the picture. His name was Sir Charles Warren. Charles Warren was the head of Scotland Yard back in 1888, the chief of the Metropolitan Police of London, and he looks like a very respectable man in his uniform, but he was not. He was a very corrupt police officer connected to the highest levels of the British establishment. He was a good friend of the royal family as well, but he was not a good fit for the job at all. This man, or the people living here, came to this man and asked for two very simple requests. The first one, a plea to put more police officers in the streets of Whitechapel. And he actually agreed. In a public speech he said, I promise I'll put more police officers in Whitechapel. However, those men will be wearing plain clothes. In other words, they're gonna be there, but you won't see them. Now take a guess from me again and tell me how many officers you think were hired. None. He just lied to everyone. Now, the second plea was to offer financial rewards to anyone coming forward with any information about the killer. And it seemed like a good idea. However, the relationship of the people living here and police officers was quite mistrustful, particularly between sex workers and police officers. That lead us to believe it was actually written by the killer himself. We call it the Dear Boss letter. It starts with the phrase, Dear Boss. As you can see, it's written with red ink in both sides of the paper, but also this letter is actually signed by someone named Jack the Ripper. Let me show you a close-up of his signature. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. Look how beautiful his handwriting was. Also, this letter has no mistakes in grammar, spelling, or punctuation. Very clever and quite sarcastic letter as well. And bear in mind that most of the people living here back then were illiterate. So let me read it for you. It's not a very long letter, though this should be read in an East London accent, so I apologize for my Hispanic accent. I hope I don't sound like Sofia Vergara or anything like that. But the letter says, Dear Boss, I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I have laughed when they look so clever and talk about being on the right track. That joke about leather apron gave me the real fits. I am down on horse, and I shan't quit ripping them till I do get buckled. Grand work the last job was. I gave the lady no time to squeal. How can they catch me now? I love my work, and I want to start again. You will soon hear of me with my funny little games. I saved some of the proper red stuff in a ginger beer bottle over the last job to ride with, but it went thick, like glue, and I can't use it. Red ink is fit enough, I hope. Ha ha. And he actually underlined. So he was a very sarcastic man, as you can see. Now pay attention to the next line because this will be relevant later in our tour. He closes the letter by saying, the next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off and send to the police officers just for jolly, wouldn't you? Keep this letter back till I do a bit more work, then give it out straight. My knife's so nice and sharp, I want to get right to work. I want to get to work right away if I get a chance. Good luck. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. We also can see a few older architecture in the area, like this church right in front of us. That's St. Botolph's Church. St. Botolph's was already here back in 1888. Now the pavement around of it back then was known by the local residents as Prostitute Island. There were approximately 1,200 sex workers working every night between Whitechapel and the City of London, and many of those women worked around of this church. It was called an island because these women had to walk around of the church, sometimes all night non-stop, because if they were caught standing still, they could get arrested for soliciting. Now we may ask, why would sex workers pick the church as their place to work? And that was actually a smart move from those women. Back then, you couldn't get arrested inside of a church. So if they were caught standing still or soliciting, they could claim for sanctuary inside of the church and avoid the arrest. But also this was already the financial district, so there were many potential customers every night. If one of those men wanted to hire the services of one of those ladies, he would have to walk along with the lady around of the church until they closed the deal, and then they could leave the area. So Jack the Ripper fled to this part of the city to find a second victim that night of the 30th of September, and she was murdered in Mitre Square, which was located right behind this building. Perhaps the most unusual of the 5 victims. She was born in Birmingham to a very poor family, a family with 10 children, and she was the youngest out of the 10. Now imagine you have 9 siblings in a very poor family and you are the youngest one. She never had access to a lot. But also those 10 kids became orphans at a very young age. So basically she saw for herself since she was a little girl. She spent most of her life traveling around the UK, doing all sorts of odd jobs until she met her boyfriend, a man by the name of Tom Conway. They lived together, but they never married, which was almost unheard of back in Victorian England. A woman in her 40s and living with a man without being married was very unusual. Not only that, she had a tattoo with the name of Tom Conway on her left arm. I cannot tell you how controversial that was. And they started to search for the killer. But I just told you the City of London has its own police force, so that alert came too late to this part of the city. Actually, at 1:15 in the morning, there was a police officer right here patrolling the area. There was nothing unusual to report, so that man just left. The alert finally comes at 1:35 in the morning, so the copper came back, only to find the body of Catherine Eddowes. And that man stated that she was ripped open like a pig in the marketplace. Once again, her throat severely cut from left to right. She was slashed down, this time pretty much from collarbone to groin, ripped open, disemboweled. Her intestines were placed over her right shoulder, and for the first time, Jack the Ripper hacked his victim's face. He carved large sections of her cheeks, her nose, her chin, and her jaw as well. Her womb was missing, this time her left kidney as well. And most intriguingly of all, both of her earlobes were sliced down. Purify them from their sin according to the founding myth of Freemasonry. So very similar to what Jack the Ripper was already doing with his victims. And who happened to be one of the most senior Freemasons back in Victorian England? Well, the chief of the police. So there are some Ripperologists who believe that maybe this man could have been Jack the Ripper. However, most of us believe that he was probably covering for someone in the Freemason fraternity. It is very likely that Jack the Ripper was somehow connected to the establishment. A well-protected man, maybe a doctor who knew how to cut a body and find an organ as fast as he did, but also with the level of education to write the letter 88. In relationship with this space, it would have been found in that corner over there. So the 5th victim was Mary Jane Kelly. She was approximately 25 years old when she was murdered, becoming the youngest one in this case, but also the one we know the less about. We don't have enough information about her life. Apparently she was born in Limerick, Ireland, although we don't have evidence to prove that. Excuse me, to prove this. Some witnesses said that she moved from Ireland to the UK when she was 12 or 13 years old, but again, no evidence of that. What we know is that she married a guy when she was 16 years old here in the UK, that man was killed only 2 to 3 years into the marriage. Then she moved to Cardiff to live with a cousin for a couple of years, and then she finally moved to London night to do whatever he wanted to her body. So she was behind of her rent for a couple of months, and the owner of this flat came to collect it at 11 in the morning. So he knocked the door, there was no answer, he tried again, no answer. But there was a broken window by the door, so very carefully this man puts his hand inside of this window. He moved one of the curtains, and what he saw, he said, was not the work of a man, but the work of the devil. It was basically a butchery. Once again, her throat severely cut from left to right, but this time she was almost decapitated. She was lashed down, and this was just an empty cavity. All of her organs removed and placed in different parts of this room. Both of her breasts were cut off. One was placed under her head, the other one under her right foot. Her intestines were placed around of her body, the police said almost ceremoniously, as if this was perhaps a ritual of some kind. Her face was hacked beyond recognition. Actually, her boyfriend was only able to recognize her by one eye that was left on her face. Her earlobes were sliced down, of course, and all of the flesh Jack the Ripper carved from her abdomen and both legs was placed on the bedside table. Actually, the police could see the bones from hip to knee on both legs. He carved all this flesh and left it on the table. A dreadful scene, as you can imagine. This man called the police, killed his fifth victim. He stopped because his work of art was done. And some ripperologists believe in this one because, as you can see, the violence escalated from one victim to the other one. So I don't believe in that one because, as I said, serial killers usually don't stop, but it's a very popular theory amongst ripperologists. Another popular theory is that maybe Jack the Ripper was more than one person. Particularly between the third and the fourth victim, it seems quite tight in time to run all the way from Berners Street to the city of London and then kill the second victim with so much detail in less than 35 minutes. But many doctors who study this case believe this is possible if you know what you are doing. So who knows? Another famous theory is that maybe Jack the Ripper moved to a different country. Unfortunately, he inspired many other serial killers around the world. There were many copycats in the United States, in Canada, and in Australia as well. So maybe he moved to one of those three countries and continued working there. That could be a possibility as well. A newer theory has to do with our Batman, George Lost. You remember this guy, the builder. Well, this guy is now a suspect in this case as well. First of all, because he was born in Whitechapel, so probably he knew where to hide. Maybe he even knew who these women were. However, this man was now connected to the establishment. He was a very rich guy at that point, very educated person at that point as well. But also he was the hero of the story. So no one would think he could have been a suspect and maybe he got away with it. That could be a possibility as well. This is to be had. Not at all. It's too late. And even if we knew who Jack the Ripper was, nothing will change what happened to those 5 women. You see, Jack the Ripper jumped straight into history books, and he very quickly became part of the entertainment industry and even part of pop culture. He is now seen more as a celebrity rather than a killer. And this happened so long ago that we sometimes forget about these 5 women. They were real people with real lives. Very tough lives indeed, but still their lives. And no one had the right to take that away from them. Then why do we glorify and celebrate and almost glamorize violence against women in 2025? I can almost guarantee most of you have never heard the names of these 5 women before today. However, all of you have heard about Jack the Ripper. Why do we keep talking about a man we barely know instead of these 5 women we know a lot about? We have their names, their stories, some of their photographs as well. So we should change the perspective in this case and commemorate these 5 women rather than their killer. Of course, it's not the point of the tour to end it at a depressing point. So let me During the funeral of the 5th victim, Mary Jane Kelly, her coffin was carried for about 2 miles throughout the streets of Whitechapel. More than 80% of the population living here came outside. They lined up in both sides of the road and they paid their respects to this woman. She was cheered and sung to her final resting place. But from that point, the people in Whitechapel and actually the people all over the country were just sick of the situation. So in an unprecedented sign of unity, more than 70,000 women from all over this country and from all social classes signed a petition to Queen Victoria demanding better living conditions for Whitechapel. And this place was no longer a secret. It was all over the news. Even the international press was covering the case, and of course Queen Victoria didn't. And they changed it for good for generations and generations of other men and women who came after them. So in a case where we'll never know who was the killer, these are the only names that matter. And with that said, you are free to enjoy the rest of your sunny day in London.
Guys, we're at the 10 Bells pub.
Small napkin bag.
Look at what I've got. Courtesy of Jade Coots, absolute legend. So tasty. Beautiful lady. I'm literally obsessed. We're going now, but oh my god, I love it.
5 minutes later.
I'm so freaking excited. Just smashed it again. Frick yeah!
Way round.
Well, it'd be rude not to finish the day off with a shot, wouldn't it? I'm not showing anybody's faces because quite frankly we look disgusting, so...
We have things floating in them.
Oh, stop it, no. Oh my god, there is. Well, this is going to be fun. Okay, I will see you. And I am back. Hello. Oh my god, I look like a public menace. Wow, that was such a full-on day. So the reason I didn't vlog too much after Dracula was because the underground just messed up real bad. The things that we needed to do and the places we needed to go just did not align, and they closed off a couple of the places that we needed to go through. So we did actually end up walking from Westminster to London Euston, but that was fine, that was okay. Like, it was really good because Sophie and Kevin are both extremely savvy with London, which was phenomenal. They made it so easy. But guys, honestly, today was amazing. Today was incredible, and it really solidified the fact that I didn't have to do what every typical hen do and every typical bride did, and it's so important to just enjoy yourself and have a good day. Like, I cannot get over how incredible today was. As soon as we got to the start of the Jack the Ripper tour, immediately as soon as we got to Whitechapel, I knew what was going on. And then the fact that they surprised me with a meal in like the 10 Bells. I have been wanting to go to that place since I was a kid. I remember watching a documentary with my mum about Jack the Ripper, and we turned to each other and went, we will go there, we will absolutely go there. And we did, and it was such a special moment. I love my mum so much. She's one of the main reasons that I am the way I am, which, you know, massive kudos to her. She was just, oh my god, it was incredible. And then we went to see Dracula, a comedy of terrors, and it was amazing. I haven't laughed that much in a hot second. And at the end, so Sophie went and asked if like we could have a photo with the cast, and they said, well, we can't sort that out properly, however the cast do come out sometimes and they do stick around. And they came out and they signed our program, and we had photos which I'll pop here, and oh my god, it was phenomenal. I'd seen it on TikTok a few times, but it was so funny. Like, I love Young Frankenstein and stuff like that, and it was very similar to that, and it was just, oh my god, I cannot get over it. It was so freaking good. And it was at a place called the Chocolate Factory, I think. Yeah, Chocolate Factory Theatre. Never been there before, but it was fantastic. Everybody was fantastic. The cast, the staff, amazing. And everybody was so complimentary. Like, everybody we spoke to, and they just like complimented the idea that we weren't doing this hen thing stereotypically. It was amazing. And I think the main takeaway from all of this was, you speak to your maid of honor and you have the day that you want. Don't feel like you have to go, you know, on a pub crawl if you really don't want to. That really wasn't my style. And we didn't do like a full proper weekend. Obviously I stayed over Sophie's with some of my bridesmaids, Jade and Kirsty, the night before, and we had a really good night doing that. And then we did this today, so that kind of felt like the weekend. And honestly, it was everything I wanted. It was everything I wanted, and I feel so blessed to just have these people in my life, and they just understand me so much and get the assignment, and it was fantastic. But now onto the goodie bag that Sophie did for us. We begin, obviously every bride needs a sash. I got Bride of Darkness, and then on the other side it says this witch is getting hitched. That was phenomenal. We got so many compliments on the sashes. It was insane. And then she's done such a good job with this. Oh my gosh. So she got us some bath salts, and then she got us like a lip balm carrier, but it's a bat. It's a frigging bat. And she got us some keychains as well for that. And then we had a shot glass because obviously you've got to drink tequila rose. So we've got Till Death doers party. That's awesome. And then she made us these cups, so she put a bunch of stickers on for them, so that was really cute that she's made a lot of this. And then she got us little ghosties. I don't know what I'm going to call mine yet. If you've got any ideas what I should name him, in the comments below. I want to start his name with G, so that's the assignment for you. And then she put a fan in for us, and honestly guys, in London it was dire. It was absolutely dire, so that was very much appreciated. She made a little bag of sweets for us. She got us a nail file, and then she made us some glasses as well, and they got like a little bat with a love heart on, and then a pen, hand sanitizer. So mine says draft of the living death. Amazing. And then James, so he has a 3D printer. James is Sophie's husband, and he made us headbands, and I just love mine so much. Oh my gosh. Then she got me a black veil, and then she got us these tote bags, and they have keychains on with our first initial, and then she got us these little makeup bags as well. So if you are a maid of honor, or if you are a bride, or even, you know, a groom or a best man, and you want to look at making your goodie bag a little bit more alternative, this is the kind of stuff that you can look into. Like, there are things out there that exist for an alternative setting, particularly with your wedding. And I think it's really important to reiterate it, because the amount of people that I've spoken to, like we've said, we're having a wedding this year, it's Halloween, horror, witchy vibes, and they went, oh my god, I wish that I knew different things and what to look out for to kind of make it more our vibe. This is what you need to look out for. Just think outside the box, and it can work. It can absolutely work. And honestly, you only do this once. Well, hopefully you only do this once, and you want it to be the best experience ever. And this just, oh, I literally cannot. I cried so much when we went into the 10 bells. I was like, this is really disturbing, because I shouldn't be crying over this, but the place just meant so much to me, and I was desperate to do it. And she really understood the assignment. The whole team really understood the assignment. The fact that they put it all together for me, and it was so special, was incredible. I loved every second of this day. I really did. And Gareth was telling me, I got home and I spoke to him, and he was saying that loads of people missed me at Liverpool Comic Con. Please don't worry, I will be there tomorrow. I'm going to meet Cameron Moynihan, which I'm very excited about. But I'm so glad. I'm so glad that this was just the best day ever. So I really hope that this helped to show you that yes, you can have an alternative wedding, you can have an alternative lifestyle, and you can have an alternative hen do, provided that you communicate about what you want, and also you have a kick-ass maid of honor like I do, and bridesmaids and bridesman and mother of the bride and friend of the bride, because Tracy, mum's friend, came along as well, so that was really lovely. But oh, massive shout out to Ivan as well. Ivan took us for the Jack the Ripper tour, and he was phenomenal. He was so informative, he was incredible, and he didn't just show us places where key points happened within the Jack the Ripper lore and the Jack the Ripper history. He showed us other places, and he was just so knowledgeable about what he was saying, and he was so passionate, and he was so lovely. And I really hope he watches this, and yeah, like, he gets to see it, because he was just wonderful, and he was such a lovely guy. I couldn't ask for a better tour guide. I've said to Gareth that we're definitely going to go back so he can experience it as well, and I am going to request Ivan again, because oh my god, he was so cool. He was so cool. But this was amazing. I really hope you enjoyed coming along with us. I hope you've had a good day. If not, that's okay. Always remember, tomorrow's a new day. See you later, guys. Bye.